In the winter years of World War II, staying warm was not a matter of comfort. It was survival. Fuel was rationed. Coal deliveries were unreliable. Electricity was often cut, and entire cities endured long blackouts. Families could not rely on centralized heating systems because many simply did not exist, and those that did were often reserved for factories, hospitals, or military use. What followed was a wave of civilian ingenuity that history rarely talks about. Ordinary people built heating systems from scrap, reused materials and basic physics, and many of those designs worked shockingly well. Today, with rising energy costs and renewed interest in self-reliance, these forgotten systems deserve a second look. One of the most important shifts during the war was the idea of heating people, not buildings. Families stopped trying to warm entire homes and instead focused on single living spaces. Bedrooms were often left unheated, while kitchens or sitting rooms became heat hubs. This allowed small, low-fuel systems to be effective. A modern application of this is zone heating. Closing unused rooms, sealing doors, and concentrating heat in one area drastically reduces fuel use. World War II families often used thick curtains or salvaged blankets to block off stairways and hallways, creating microclimates that stayed warm for hours with minimal fuel. One of the most common civilian solutions involved stacked clay pots suspended over candles or oil lamps. The pots absorbed heat and radiated it slowly into the room. While a single candle could not heat a space, the thermal mass of the clay made a noticeable difference. Families used these systems under tables or in enclosed corners. Today, the same principle applies using terracotta pots and tea lights, though with modern fire safety awareness. The lesson here is not the candle itself, but the use of thermal mass to store and release heat gradually. In areas with access to metal scrap, families built shallow steel boxes filled with sand or ash and placed them near stoves or fireplaces. These boxes absorbed heat throughout the day and released it long after the fire went out. This was especially useful at night when fuel had to be conserved. Modern households can replicate this idea with masonry heaters, stone slabs, or even water containers placed near heat sources. The physics has not changed, only the materials. In bomb-prone cities, many families spent their nights in basements or shelters. These spaces tended to stay a bit warmer, because the surrounding earth acted as insulation, really. Some households even enhanced this effect by lining the walls with wood panels, cardboard, or, layered newspapers to trap air. The same principle applies today in earth-sheltered homes, root cellars, or even insulated crawl spaces, if you think about it. Heat loss is reduced dramatically when temperature swings are buffered by soil. Long before modern rocket stoves became all the rage, civilians in Eastern Europe were building narrow combustion chambers from bricks and tin just to maximize heat from small wood scraps. These designs honestly burned hotter and cleaner than your typical open fire. Families could boil water and heat rooms using nothing but twigs and broken furniture, if you can believe it. Today's rocket stoves follow the same principles, showing us that wartime necessity produced designs still considered efficient by modern engineers. Hot water bottles weren't just for beds, Families would heat water once and then use several bottles placed in insulated boxes or wrapped in cloth to warm small rooms. Some households even went so far as to build wooden cabinets to house several bottles, basically creating primitive radiators. The modern equivalent, really, is using water as a heat storage medium, like in radiant floor heating or solar-heated water systems. Aluminum foil and polished metal were used behind stoves and lamps to reflect heat back into living spaces. This simple trick increased perceived warmth without burning extra fuel. Today, reflective insulation panels behind radiators use the exact same logic. The World War II lesson is clear: heat you generate should be directed toward people, not absorbed by walls. Families often slept or sat on raised platforms with enclosed sides, trapping warm air around the body. These were sometimes lined with straw, wool or newspapers. This design reduced heat loss through the floor and allowed body heat to accumulate. Modern versions include insulated sleeping platforms, raised beds, and even tent-style bed enclosures for cold climates. One of the most effective wartime practices was aggressive draft sealing. Cracks were stuffed with rags, paper or sawdust. Windows were double-layered with plastic or oiled paper. This made even weak heating systems effective. Today, weather stripping and window insulation kits do the same job far more cleanly, but the principle remains identical. Families coordinated heating times, cooking together and gathering in one room during peak warmth hours. This reduced total fuel consumption and increased efficiency. In modern terms, this is load sharing and behavioral energy efficiency, still one of the most effective ways to cut heating costs. Perhaps the most important lesson from World War II heating systems is that they were designed with realism. People accepted cooler temperatures and focused on comfort through layering, insulation and smart design rather than brute force heat. That mindset is still relevant today. These forgotten World War II heating systems were not primitive. They were practical, efficient, and grounded in real-world constraints. They remind us that warmth comes from understanding heat, not just consuming energy. If you found value in these overlooked lessons from the past, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more historically grounded survival knowledge. Share this video with anyone who appreciates old-world ingenuity and practical self-reliance, because the past still has a lot to teach us.